Welcome to another edition of Preps Plus Extra, the Journal Sentinel's online high school sports show. How you doing? I'm Mark Stewart, prep editor of the Journal Sentinel. Joining me again, J.R. Ratcliffe, sports editor of Now Newspapers.
That's right. Got to have the corporate plug right there.
Yes. Again, as always, how you doing?
Doing great. We just got through some rivalry week action, and now we're headed toward the home stretch of the football season. We're going to have our first batch of playoff qualifiers after the week 6 games ahead. So finally, we're getting to that home stretch.
Yeah, and as we noted last week with rivalry week, you know,
How do people say that so easily on like ESPN or whatever? They'd say it so smoothly. It's impossible to say.
That's why they get paid for doing these kind of
yeah.
things. This is their first. This is our second.
Yeah.
This is our second gig.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it was a telling week. You know, especially in some leagues with what happened with some of these rivalry games. For you, coming out of last week, what struck you?
Sussex Hamilton beating Menomonee Falls was the biggest outcome in my mind. Not because Hamilton beat them, which I think that border rivalry is pretty evenly matched every year, but they handled them. And Falls was 2-0 at the time in the league, 4-0 overall, 4-0 overall. So they were definitely looking like one of the better teams in the league. Hamilton had scuffled; they'd lost to Brookfield East, and so them winning now puts them right back in a position where they can win the conference. After it looked like, well, man, maybe they're in trouble to even make the playoffs. So Hamilton is clearly not as bad as we thought, and after we maybe thought maybe they're not as good as we thought through the first few weeks of the season when they took a couple losses, and so the GMC kind of back up for grabs now. Marquette is 3-0 and the team at the top, but they have to play a lot of those heavy hitters still. Brookfield Central very much in the conversation after blowing out Brookfield East, and they have one loss along with Falls and Hamilton, so that league is anybody's to win at this point.
Yeah, and as we noted last week, Sussex Hamilton was they were the preseason team that, you know, people were looking at to win that conference, and it goes to show you how long. I mean, the high school football season, it's only 9 weeks, but
Right.
there are a lot of shifts that can happen, and
Yeah.
you know, you go from thinking, almost forgetting about Sussex Hamilton a little bit, and then, you know, boom. You know, they have a big performance like they did. 42 points I think they scored last week against an undefeated team, and you know, it was really a high, a telling performance, and you know, I guess we'll see if they can keep it up with Marquette. They, like I say, Marquette hasn't played any of the the heavy hitters of the league, which maybe is an advantage for a team that's sort of is on the younger side. You know, gives them a chance to
Build some confidence.
Yeah, build some confidence.
Right.
So now Sussex Hamilton and Marquette this week. That's going to be one of those. It's going to be another telling week for the Greater Metro.
And you talked about just matchups that sort of change our perception, totally shift stream. Oak Creek Franklin faced off in another rivalry game, and Franklin, they lost that one of the first couple weeks, week 2, to Greendale pretty handily, and we kind of thought, well, maybe Franklin isn't as good as we thought. Greendale, as it turns out, might be one of the best teams in the state, probably is one of the best teams in the state, and Franklin has sort of built it back up now, and they, after beating Oak Creek, they rallied to win. I think 14-6 was the final score, and now Franklin's, they're right there. They're certainly in contention to win the Southeast. It's going to come down between them and Kenosha Indian Trail, and they, again, could make a serious run once the postseason rolls around.
Yeah, and speaking of Franklin, we've got Franklin's August Beck and Coach Lewis Brown talking about that very
dramatic win.
Yes, very dramatic. That's why he's my partner right here. He just saved me right there. They're a very dramatic win over Oak Creek.
They're a tough competitor. I'll give them that. They fought hard. They had some big pass plays, but we came back and we stopped them and came out with the win.
You know, there's a few good teams yet to go. I mean, we've got a bunch of them in this conference. We'll work on who we have next week, and then we'll go from there. But, I mean, knock on wood, we're pretty healthy right now, and if that keeps going, I like our chances.
Well, speaking of conference races and races that were sort of a surprise, we touched on Kenosha Indian Trail. In the Wisconsin Little 10, you got Wisconsin Lutheran, which, hey, we always know they're going to be there. But we got Oconomowoc this week. They play Oconomowoc in a matchup that's, it's going to be another telling game, more so I think from the Oconomowoc perspective of, hey, is this the year they get over the hump?
Definitely, and homecoming is a big deal in a lot of communities, but it's really big in Oconomowoc. If you've ever seen the Oconomowoc homecoming parade, it's crazy. Add to it the fact that they're playing Wisconsin Lutheran. That's a team they have not defeated since 2001. So 11 straight games or whatever it is that Wisco has won in a row. And they've won 22 straight conference games in a row. So they've been the alpha in the WLT for some time. Oconomowoc comes in at 5-0. They haven't faced Watertown, Slinger, or Hartford. So they haven't gotten to the meaty part of their schedule yet. If they can finally knock off Wisco, we're talking about a Cooney team that could win its first conference title since 2002. So they're very jacked up for this game, and definitely looking forward to this last part of the season.
Yeah, and Wisco, I've actually had the chance to see them twice, and they've kind of gone to a different offense this year. They're known as more of an option type team, and now they're doing more, I guess more spread option, more passing with Junior Logan McShane, who we had on last week. And they're one of those teams that it just looks like they're just they're one of those teams that I think you better get them early,
right? Because
they've been in this transition with their new offense and a lot of young players, and just the way they've had success there, I think they're building something, and there's something to be said about expecting success, and I think that's what what those guys have at Wisco.
And Oconomowoc with one of the better quarterbacks in the area with Canton Larson, a senior. This is his third year starting. He's a very dynamic running, passing threat. Casey Bednarski had a great game last week in the receiving capacity. They have some weapons, and this is definitely one of their better teams. At 5-0, they're really good on paper. Not positive that they're a team that can run the table or anything like that, but this is a team that they really, I would imagine, feel like this is their year. With Wisco being what we perceived as a down year for them at the beginning of the year, there's really no such thing at Wisco, but this is probably the best opportunity Oconomowoc has had in a long time to really honestly say we can win this game, and it's at Cooney, it's on homecoming, so that'll be the best game of the week in my mind.
Yeah, so that's part of what's going to be a very interesting week in high school football. Some other games that you definitely want to watch out for: Arrowhead at Waukesha West, which for Arrowhead, this is going to be like the third week in a row they've played a team that's ranked. And really, if they get past Waukesha West, I don't see anyone else in that conference really even giving them a test. And let's not forget about the North Shore, where we got Homestead and Cedarburg. That's one of the classic or probably the tightest rivalry in that conference right now. And Homestead, even though they beat Arrowhead earlier this year, they've been, the Grafton game was sort of a shaky performance. So, who knows what can happen there.
All four of those teams you just mentioned are perfect in conference, and the winner of those respective games are going to clinch a playoff berth. So it's a fun time of year. Arrowhead and Waukesha West, you look at their recent history, I don't know if there's been a better rivalry, maybe not border-wise or anything in terms of intensity, but those games have been pretty dramatic. And like you said, Homestead's just not been grade A performance yet, and I think they're still one of the best, if not the best team in the area. Cedarburg's going to be their biggest test yet.
Yes. So hey, it's officially on record, week 6. The first talk of playoff talk here.
That's right.
So we'll next week we'll see who qualified for the playoffs. We'll talk more football matchups, but that's going to wrap it up for this edition of Preps Plus Extra. For more Preps Plus action, you can watch me and Lance Allen every Sunday night on TMJ4. Take care.